Welcome to part 2 of this series. You know my name by now. In this part of the vid, we're going to be taking a look at portaling basic buildings. We're going to be using this example map because it represents a more realistic map environment for us to take a look at. By the time you're watching this video, I will have released this map file for you to map along with me. As we get into more complex situations, it will help if you can have something physically the same sitting in front of you, just for better understanding. You can download this file from File Planet. I'll post the link in the comments below this video. It comes unportaled, and I'll also include a cult version without models for anyone using a different version of Radiant. Unless you're using World at War, you will need to retexture this for yourself. I apologise for that, but I wasn't going to do a version for all of the different games and their tools. Anyway. When downloaded, if you're using World at War, open the .rar file and place the mp_basic_texture.map into your map source folder. If not, then place the mp_basic cult map into your map source folder if you're using a different version. And again, you'll need to retexture it if you want to compile and test your portals as we go here. Do whatever else you need to do for this map for compiling for your version of Radiant, and we're ready to go. Let's load into Radiant. So thankfully for us, we learned pretty much everything we need to know about portaling a basic building in the previous video, so our work here will be relatively quick. First, we're going to focus on portaling this house, and just like before, our first task is to determine what structural brushes we need to turn this house into one portal cell. Every other brush we can make detail. I've already done this for the sake of time, so we're ready now to filter out everything we don't need to create our portals. In this case, we have terrain and curve patches as well as models and light grid, etc. So just filter out everything you have except structural and portal brushes. Now we can see what we have left. Just like in the previous vid, the brushes we have left basically leave us with a large room. And just like the room in the previous vid, if we want to turn this house into one portal cell, we need to create a sealed environment. So again, go around and check all the structural brushes are aligned and with no gaps, and now we're ready to create our cell. Just like before, we need to block up the holes, in this case the doors and windows, with our portal brushes, like so. Make sure they are all aligned correctly with the surrounding structural brushes. To finish this portal cell, we need to apply the crucial portal texture, and in this case, as I mentioned in the last video, the side of the brush that we should select a texture didn't really matter that much. It wasn't too important because it was an internal space. However, when portaling buildings and outdoor areas, we should texture the outward facing brush faces. This will create an outward facing portal. Again, this won't make sense until we discover this for ourselves when we move into more complex portaling. So let's do that now. Like so, select the outside faces of all these portal node draw brushes, apply the portal texture, and also come back into the house and don't forget this brush also. And we're done. Again, we think we've completed this cell, so do a quick test to the BSP just to check for errors. And until we get used to portaling, testing after each cell is just an easier way to make sure we don't waste our precious time on creating bad portals. So with that cell completed, we can now move on and portal our outbuildings. To do this, I'm sure we can already see this coming. We need to add a portal brush into each of these doorways to make each of these two rooms into portal cells. And we just need to apply the crucial portal texture to the outside face of each of these brushes, and we're done already. Again, lastly, just check our brushes to ensure we don't have gaps, test, and hopefully we have now successfully portaled our buildings. That's sweet. That didn't take long. I told you we'd be quick. A few things we can take a look at now is just to help us out. It's just taking a look at some sneaky ways to add structural brushes when we need to add them to complete a portal cell. If we look at the house quickly, the front door needed a structural brush in order to complete this cell. If we didn't, then this face of the portal brush will be left exposed and the portal will fail. So in this case, the floor doesn't quite come out as far enough to be used with this brush. So I've cunningly disguised this structural brush as the front step. Again, in this doorway, I've split the floor and pulled the brush out to achieve the same thing. It really comes down to your design for whatever this building is, but the point is we have to think creatively to add our essential structural brushes, and this will be an invaluable skill with adding essential structural brushes to more complex map layouts, by disguising or adding structural brushes by hook or by crook to achieve creating our portal cells. Lastly, I'm sure you can work this out for yourselves, but if we want to split the different floors in our buildings for whatever reason, in this example it's probably not worth it. And another tip about portals is having too many can be just as bad as having too little. This comes back to the reference I made in the last vid about thinking logically about where to add our portals to best help the performance of our map. Portaling a broom cupboard, for example, will probably not be worth it, right? So the placement of our portals is just as important as the portals themselves, and this comes back to our ability to plan a map design with portaling in mind. Placing a building or whatever in a certain place specifically for the express idea of portaling in a particularly large, well-detailed or open area will give us the ability to design our maps with more confidence in the way it will eventually perform for the player. Anyway, I was going to show us how to create a portal that will split the 2 floors of our building. So if we bring back the detail brushes, we can decide what brushes we will need to create a new portal within this building. And in this case, I want this brush, and the brushes that make up our second floor. And we need to turn these brushes back into structural brushes. So with them selected, right click in the 2D window and go to Make Structural. Deselect, filter out detail again, and now we need to place our portal brush to separate the upstairs and downstairs. We could just use this one brush to achieve this here. And what face to apply this portal texture to this time? Well, you can pick or choose. It's the only internal portal brush in this building, so it really makes no odds. Probably I would just texture this face. And that's it. Now we have 2 portal cells in this building, and they separate the first floor from the second. And that brings us to the end of this tutorial. In the next part of the tutorial we will be exploring portaling basic outdoor areas. I just kind of run out of time to properly do it in this vid, but we'll definitely take care of it in the next one. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.